All roads lead to Rome, however only one rider will arrive in pink. Welcome back to the Final K. Grand Tour season is officially here with the Giro d'Italia kicking off on Friday. Not gonna lie, this is one of the races I look forward to most every season. The scenery's beautiful, the climbs are brutal, and the Giro just always seems to provide some sort of chaos along the way. Just look at last year, for example. In this video, I'm going to be picking out key stages to keep an eye out on during the Giro d'Italia, and I'm also going to be giving my predictions for each jersey as well. So if you're as excited as I am for this year's Giro d'Italia, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe as well, because I'm going to be live on YouTube covering the race. So with all of that out of the way, let's get straight into it. This year's Giro d'Italia has 21 stages, 3 rest days, 3,468 kilometers, and 48,700 meters of climbing. We are also seeing the return of the Red Bull Kilometer, which is an intermediate sprint where bonus seconds are up for grabs for GC. And with a fair few of these intermediate sprints being so close to the finish line, we could see a few surprises shake up the GC. But before I go on to my predictions, like I said in the intro, I want to break down a few of the key stages to keep an eye on for the next 3 weeks. So in week 1, we get to see the Giro d'Italia start in Bulgaria for the first time ever, with the first rest day coming after stage 3 and the second rest day coming after stage 9. The first key stage is going to be stage 1, as this is going to be massive, as it's the first opportunity for someone to put on the Maya Rosa, and it also has an uphill sprint as well, so it could be pretty interesting. The next key stage is going to be stage 7, as it is the first major difficulty the GC favourites are going to have to contend with, as they're going to be climbing the Blockhouse climb. The climb itself is 13.6 kilometers long and has an average of 8.4%. And the last time the Giro d'Italia was here was in 2022, in which Jai Hindley won the stage. The final key stage of week 1 is going to be stage 9. It's another category 1 climb up to the finish. It's just not as hectic as stage 7, as we're going to see them climb up the Corno alle Scale, which is 10.8 kilometers long and has an average of 5.8%. Between all of those stages in week 1, we're going to see opportunities for punchers to arrive, potentially even more bunch sprint finishes, depending on how the sprinters do on the climbs, and we could also see a potential breakaway winner as well. But I am going to say, do not sleep on stage 2, as it could catch a few of the GC guys out, as they climb up to the final kilometer, which isn't categorized, but there is a maximum of 12% on it, and if you're not positioned, I mean, you could be caught out on it. On the week 2, and probably the easiest of the 3, although it is still no cakewalk, as we're going to see our first 5-star difficulty stage. The key stages in this week are going to be stage 10, the individual time trial, and it is straight after the rest day as well. So I know it has Ghana written all over it, but the GC guys are going to need to stay sharp for this one and make sure that they are not still in rest mode. The other key stage I was on about earlier, the 5-star difficulty rated stage, is stage 14, and what a stage as well, as they start the stage climbing a 15 kilometer categorized 1 climb, and they end the stage climbing the Pila climb. It is a category 1 climb at 16.6 kilometers long and has an average of 7%. There's also going to be 3 other climbs in the middle of that stage as well, so there's going to be a lot of climbing to do in stage 14, and I think it's where we're going to see the GC really start to take shape. The other stages in week 2 are going to see a few more opportunities for the sprinters, but I mean, across the 3 weeks, there's not that many opportunities for a bunch sprint, so if you are a sprinter, you'd be fuming. And then there are also a few puncher stages as well. On to week 3, and this is the one that matters. This is the week where we're going to find out who is worth their salt, as there are 4 uphill finishes, including 3 summit finishes, and all 3 of those summit finishes are the key stages as well in this week. Stage 16 sees the riders have to tackle the Kari climb. It is another category 1 climb up towards the finish. It is 11.6 kilometers long and has an average of 8%. Stage 19, and potentially the queen stage of this year's Giro d'Italia, as they're going to be finishing up a category 2 climb that is 5 kilometers long and has an average of 9.6%, but 60 kilometers before the finish line, we're going to see the riders hit the Passo Giao. It is a highest category climb and is the highest point in this year's Giro d'Italia as well. It is 9.8 kilometers long and has an average of 9.3%, and they have to do 3 climbs before it and 2 climbs after it, including the climb up to the finish, so it is a massive day of climbing and a massive day for the GC. The final key stage of this year's Giro d'Italia is going to be stage 20, as they're going to hit the same climb twice on this stage as well. It is the Piancavallo. It is 14.5 kilometers long and has an average of 8%. And it's also going to be the final stage for anyone battling in the GC to make a move. So if a move needs to be made, this is going to be the stage you'll see it on. The other stages in week 3 are potentially going to be breakaway stages, because I mean, the GC guys and the GC teams will be focusing on the mountain stages. And then stage 21, where we are finally in Rome, starting and finishing in the shadows of the Colosseum, a fitting end to the first Grand Tour of the season. So with the stages wrapped up, let's move on to the jerseys. sprinters. These are the top 10 favourites for the Maglia Rosa at this year's Giro d'Italia, and I got the odds off the website I usually get the odds off, but as you can see, Jonas Vingegaard is in first by a country mile. Pellizzari is sat in second at 5-1, and then the gap from second to third is even big as well at 16-1 with Felix Gall. There were a lot of GC favourites that did drop out of this race with Joao Almeida, Richard Carapaz and Mikel Landa, but I mean, if they were riding it this year, I don't think they would have made a difference in the gap that Jonas Vingegaard currently has in first place. These are the sprinters that are going to be competing for the Ciclamino jersey at this year's Giro d'Italia, the points jersey, the sprinters jersey, whatever way you want to put it, but this is in no particular order, this list, by the way. There are no odds out there, so I just had to muster up a list myself. I didn't include Arnaud Delay in this list as they're pulling him out in stage 10, which I don't know why they announced, but he isn't in this list. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of big name sprinters that are competing for the Ciclamino jersey this year. Jonathan Milan, Tobias Lund Andreasen, Dylan Groenewegen, Caden Groves and Paul Magnier. So a lot of big names. Even though the route isn't suited to the sprinters this year, we're still going to see a lot of these big guys competing for the jersey. Let's have a look at my predictions for all four of the jerseys now. These are my youth jersey predictions for the top 5, and I also forgot to say some of the riders could change because not everyone is 100% confirmed and we could see injuries or illnesses before the start, but this is my top 5 for the youth jersey. We've got Pinarello for NSN in 5th, Matisse Rondel in 4th, who I think look really good, and the only reason I don't think he's going to finish higher is because he'll be working for Michael's store and it is his first Grand Tour. Now, when Kulsek got announced for the Giro by Uno X, they said he is the one that's going to be competing for the GC for the team, so I don't know if I've been a bit harsh in putting him in 3rd for the youth jersey, but I do think Marco Balocchi off AF Education is going to finish higher than him, and I mean, he hasn't been 100% confirmed for this race as well by AF Education, but I do think he has done a lot better than him this season, and they both have rode a Grand Tour before, so I just think with this season, I think Marco Balocchi could finish higher than him, and then obviously Giulio Pellizzari in 1st. No explanation needed for that. As for my prediction for the KOM jersey, I mean, I don't even have a graphic for it for the favourites because, I mean, you could put all the names on a wall and throw a dart at it and whoever it landed on could potentially win the KOM jersey. So, I mean, what I am going to go with is I've seen a lot of, it could be a GC rider, you know, that have fallen out of the top 10. They're not really in the GC anymore. So then they go for the KOM jersey in the final week. But what I am going to go for is I think it is going to be an Italian rider that does get it. I'm thinking, you know, Ciccone, Pinarello. I know he was 5th in my youth GC or my youth jersey, but I think he could still get it. Filippo Zana at Quickstep, he could grab it, and then someone from Astana. So there are a lot of Italian options riding this race, as you know, the majority of the people riding this are from Italy, but because it's in Italy. But I do think that an Italian rider will win the KOM jersey. This is my top 5 for the Ciclamino. As you can see, Ular from Movistar, he is in 5th. I think with his good performances in the Pyrenees, he had a few of those, and then I think he had a good performance in one of the Belgian one-day races after that. And I think he has a good, you know, he's got a good kick on punchier stages, so I think he could fit into the top 5 here. Jonas Vingegaard in 4th, and I think with all the finishes he's going to have in the mountain stages, you know, top 5, top 10s, and a lot of firsts probably, but I mean, he's not going to win it, I don't think, but I do think he's going to get into the top 5 for the points jersey. Paul Magnier making his 2nd Giro appearance, as he did abandon last year's race, but I do think he's going to finish in the top 5 for the points jersey. I think Quickstep are going to have a lot of focus on him now, as Mikel Landa did drop out, so I think a lot of focus is going to be on Paul Magnier. I hope he gets a stage. I think he will get a stage, but I don't think he's going to win the Ciclamino. Jonathan Milan in 2nd. Now he's going to be doing everything in his power to try and win this Ciclamino jersey. He's already won it twice at the Giro d'Italia, 2023 and 2024, and he won the points jersey at the Tour de France there last year as well, so I don't think he's going to get it this year. I don't. I think with the route being catered to more, you know, mountain punchier stages with a lot of less opportunities for a bunch sprint. Now there are on puncher stages an opportunity for a bunch sprint. It's just whether he does survive the climbs and has the legs for it at the end, but I don't think he's going to get it this year. I think Tobias Lund Andreasen is going to get it this year. One of the signings of the summer, and what a season he is having. He's already won 3 races. The Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road race. He won a stage at the Tour Down Under and a stage at the Tirreno Adriatico, but all his other results, he's picked up podiums in Gent-Wevelgem. He's also got loads of top 10s as well in all the one-day races. And I think with his sprinting ability as well, with his punching ability, I think he is going to win this Ciclamino jersey. Although the team isn't centered around him, you know, they've also got Felix Gall to attend to, but I think with the guys he has got around him, I think he's going to win this jersey. Let's move on to my top 10 for the GC at this year's Giro d'Italia, and I think the Maglia Rosa winner is going to be none other than Jonas Vingegaard. That's my top 10. That is what I think the top 10 is going to be this year. Santiago Buitrago in 10th. Now he's got 2 top 10 finishes at a Grand Tour before, 2023's Vuelta and 2024's Tour de France, so he knows what it takes to finish in the top 10 at a Grand Tour. And with his results as well this season, he got 11th in GC at the Volta Catalunya and 7th at the Tirreno Adriatico, so he's just been building up towards the first Grand Tour, and I think with the team centered around him, he is the main GC guy. I think he's good for a top 10. Sepp Kuss for Visma Lease bike, Jonas Vingegaard's right-hand man at this race, and I think Sepp Kuss is going to go to the front, Jonas is going to go on his wheel, and I think Sepp Kuss is just going to stay in a good position for the majority of the mountain stages, and all them good positions are going to end up having him finish in the top 10, and I think he's going to get 9th. Michael Storer in 8th. Now he has finished 10th at the Giro d'Italia for the past 2 years, and I mean, I think it's about time he pushes up a bit further than 10th, and I think he's going to get 8th in this race. He had a good Tour of the Alps against Pellizzari, Arnsman and Egan Bernal, where he finished in 4th. Now his results for the start of the season haven't been the best, but I mean, he does have a good teammate around him, Mathieu Rondel. He might be able to help him in the mountains, but I do think over 3 weeks Michael Storer will be able to get into the top 10, and like I said, I think he's due higher than a 10th finish. Now I'm taking a gamble here for my 7th place finish, and I'm going with Enric Mas. Now he's barely been visible this season. He rode the Volta Catalunya, and he also rode 3 one-day races in Spain at the start of the season, but even at the Volta Catalunya he finished 24th, so he did, and he hasn't had a good Grand Tour since 2024, where he finished 3rd in the Vuelta a España. He rode the Tour de France last year, but he had to abandon as well, so this is going to be his first Grand Tour. It's also his first time riding the Giro d'Italia as well, so not a lot of pressure on him, but I do think he will finish in the top 10. Derek G. West, I have got him in 6th. Now he got 4th in GC at this race last year with Premier Tech, but I don't think he's going to do that well this year. I think, new team, he's still getting a bit used to it. He did finish 12th in the Tour of the Alps. He didn't finish the Volta Catalunya, and he got 7th in the UAE Tour, but he knows how to ride over 3 weeks. He's got a top 5 before at the Giro, but I don't think he's going to get a top 5 this year. I think he's going to get in 6th. In 5th place, I've got UAE's Adam Yates, and I mean, this is going to be UAE's main guy for this race, as a lot of the guys that are coming back are returning from injury, and a lot of guys that aren't there are injured. Now this year he has rode quite a handful of races, but all the World Tour races he has been working for someone else. UAE Tour he's working for Del Toro, and the Tour Down Under he was working for Vine and Narvaez. He rode the Muscat Classic, in which he was the main guy for it, and he got 2nd in it. He rode the Tour of Oman, where he got 3rd in GC, and then he just rode the Gran Camino there, in which he did win. So he does have some good form going into this Grand Tour, but I mean, it's the first time we've seen him as a leader at a Grand Tour for a team in quite some time, and I do think he's going to finish in 5th. I've got Felix Gall in 4th for the Giro d'Italia. Now it's going to be his return to this race for the first time since 2022. So he's riding this, he's riding the Vuelta, he's not riding the Tour de France because Paul Sexas is riding it, and I mean, this year he's been doing pretty well. He got 5th at the UAE Tour and he got 6th at the Volta Catalunya. Now he would have finished a lot higher in the Volta Catalunya if his descending didn't catch him out, because there was a stage in which the descending did catch him out and he ended up losing a lot of time, so he dropped down in the 6th. But he did finish 2nd in stage 5, 51 seconds down on Jonas Vingegaard, so it is a good sign going into this Giro d'Italia. Now on to my podium, and the one all of the Italian eyeballs will be on at this race. It is Giulio Pellizzari of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Now the 22-year-old is going into his 3rd Giro d'Italia this year, and he rode it last year, and he also rode the Vuelta a España last year, in which he finished 6th in GC at the both of them, so he is getting a lot of experience at Grand Tour level. As for this season, he started off at the Volta Valencia, in which he got 3rd in GC. He then went to the Tirreno Adriatico, which he picked up another 3rd in GC, and then he went to the Tour of the Alps, in which he won and also picked up 2 stage victories. Now he is going into this race on a lot of form, and like I showed you before, he is 2nd favourite. But for my 2nd place, I have to be biased on this one, and I have to go with Egan Bernal to finish 2nd in the Giro d'Italia this year. Now, I made a hot take at the start of the season saying that Egan Bernal is either going to win a 1-week stage race or podium a Grand Tour, and I think he's going to podium at the Giro d'Italia this year. He's one of my favourite riders at the moment, hence the bias in putting him in 2nd, but I just love his comeback story in cycling. This season, we haven't really seen a lot of him, as he was down for a lot of races, but had to drop them all because of a knee injury. But he returned at the Tour of the Alps this year and just looked on fire, and I mean, I had to put him in my podium after seeing him there. And then he went to the Liège-Bastogne-Liège as well and got 5th. He was even challenging Egan Bernal in a sprint for the podium at the end. I just think he looks brilliant so far this season with the little races he has done, and I think with his 3-week experience over Grand Tour level, he's won it before. I don't think he'll win it again this year, but I do think he's going to finish on the podium. And for my winner of the Giro d'Italia, I have got none other than Jonas Vingegaard winning it. He won the Paris-Nice, he won the Volta Catalunya, and he won 4 stages across the both of them. He's never won this race before. He said the only reason he's riding it is because in his 2nd tour over the past couple of years, he has noticed his numbers are a lot better, so he's making a 2nd Grand Tour this year, the Tour de France. He's won the Tour de France multiple times. He also won the Vuelta there last year, so the Giro d'Italia is the final box to tick. My prediction is that he's going to have this wrapped up before stage 14, but I think stage 14 is where you're going to see the time gaps get a lot bigger. I think he's going to have it wrapped up after the individual time trial. And I have seen a lot of people saying that this year's Giro d'Italia is boring because Jonas Vingegaard is riding it and he is the favourite. If he wasn't riding it, it would be 10 times better, which I do sort of agree, but it is a Grand Tour. It's 3 weeks. That is a long time. Anything can happen, but I do think Jonas Vingegaard is going to win it. I think he's going to want to have this race wrapped up before the 3rd week. I think he's going to test the waters in the 1st week. He's going to go all out in week 2 on that stage 14 and the time trial as well. And then I think in the final week, he'll want to play more defensive and, you know, not do as much, which I hope isn't the case. I hope he is still fighting for it in the final week, and the gaps are a lot tighter, but it's going to be his last race before the Tour de France this season, so I think he's going to want to have it wrapped up a lot more quickly, so in the final week he can, you know, have like a rest week, I assume. So that is my predictions for this year's Giro d'Italia. Let me know your predictions for all of the jerseys down below. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, as I will be keeping you up to date on all of the stages at the Giro d'Italia this year, and also don't forget to like the video as well. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching The Final K, and all the best.